In the grim autumn of 1984, the city of Glasgow was gripped by a tragedy that would echo for decades. Mary McLaughlin, a 58-year-old grandmother, was discovered brutally murdered in her own flat in the city's Whiteinch area. Her life, once filled with family and everyday routines, was extinguished in a horrific act that defied explanation. The discovery sent shockwaves through the quiet community, turning a familiar residential street into a crime scene etched with an unbearable silence. This wasn't merely a statistic, it was the violent end of a woman's life, launching a relentless but ultimately elusive hunt for a killer who vanished into the shadows, leaving behind a profound and agonizing mystery that continues to haunt those connected to the case.
For nearly 40 years, the murder of Mary McLaughlin has remained an open wound in the annals of Scottish crime. This film delves deep into the heart of this persistent enigma, exploring the meticulous yet often frustrating investigation that has stretched across generations of detectives. We will meticulously piece together the fragments of evidence, revisit the crime scene through the lens of time, and analyze the psychological impact on a family desperate for closure. Our aim is to shed new light on this cold case, to understand the complexities that have shielded a killer for so long, and to keep the memory of Mary McLaughlin alive, hoping that renewed scrutiny might finally bring forth the truth.
Mary McLaughlin was a creature of routine and a cherished presence within her family. Born in 1926, she had 5 children and was a beloved grandmother. She lived alone in a ground-floor flat on Crathy Drive, a quiet residential street in Whiteinch. Her last known movements trace back to Friday, September 21, 1984. She had spent the day, as she often did, visiting her daughter, before returning home in the early evening. Her son last spoke to her by phone around 6 p.m. that Friday. It was a seemingly ordinary day, like any other, offering no hint of the sinister events that were about to unfold, irrevocably changing the lives of her loved ones forever.
The grim discovery was made on Sunday, September 23, 1984, by her concerned daughter. After failing to reach her mother by phone and with her mother missing from her usual church service, she went to check on her. The scene inside Mary's flat was horrific. Her body was found lying on the floor, and it was immediately clear that a violent crime had occurred. Police were called to Crathy Drive, swiftly cordoning off the area. The initial response was intense, with forensic teams meticulously combing through every inch of the small flat, knowing that the smallest detail could hold the key to understanding the brutal act that had taken place and identifying the perpetrator of this heinous crime.
The subsequent post-mortem examination revealed Mary McLaughlin had suffered a brutal and sustained attack. She had been severely beaten and strangled, confirming the investigators' initial assessment of a violent murder. Crucially, forensic evidence gathered from the scene pointed towards a sexual assault. The presence of DNA, though its full potential wasn't understood or widely applicable in 1984, was noted. Investigators focused on traditional methods, meticulously documenting fingerprints, fibers, and any trace evidence that could link a suspect to the crime. The brutality of the attack suggested a frenzied assault, raising immediate concerns about the nature and motive of the killer, whose identity remained a chilling blank slate.
The initial investigation launched a massive door-to-door inquiry across Whiteinch, with hundreds of residents questioned. Detectives canvassed the neighborhood, seeking anyone who might have seen or heard something unusual between Friday evening and Sunday morning. Potential suspects were interviewed, ranging from known local offenders to individuals with any tangential connection to Mary or her building. However, despite the intensity of the early efforts, no concrete leads materialized. The limited forensic capabilities of the era, coupled with the lack of witnesses or a clear motive, meant the case quickly became a frustrating puzzle. Investigators faced a wall of silence, battling against time and the elusive nature of their suspect.
As the initial police efforts yielded no immediate breakthrough, the case went public with significant media attention. Local newspapers carried extensive reports featuring appeals from Mary's grieving family and impassioned pleas from detectives for anyone with information to come forward.
The community, already shaken by the brutality of the crime, became increasingly fearful. The notion that a killer was walking freely among them cast a long shadow over Whiteinch. Despite the publicity and several appeals on television and radio, the crucial tip that would lead to an arrest never arrived. The wave of public interest eventually receded, but the underlying fear and a haunting question of who remained, unspoken but ever present.
As weeks turned into months and months into years, the murder of Mary McLaughlin slowly transitioned from an active investigation into a cold case. The initial burst of activity diminished, resources were reallocated, and the files were eventually archived, though never truly closed. For the family, the passage of time brought no solace, only the deepening ache of unanswered questions. The lack of an arrest meant their grief was compounded by a chilling sense of injustice and the knowledge that the perpetrator remained free. The very concept of a cold case represents a failure of justice in the eyes of victims' families, a quiet yet agonizing testament to an unresolved horror that refuses to be forgotten, even as the world moves on.
Decades later, the landscape of crime detection underwent a revolutionary transformation. The advent of advanced DNA profiling in the late 1990s and early 2000s offered a beacon of hope for countless cold cases. What was once considered a minor trace evidence in 1984 could now be the undeniable key to identifying a perpetrator. New techniques allowed for the extraction of genetic material from minute samples previously thought unusable. This technological leap meant that old exhibits, carefully preserved but once beyond the reach of conclusive analysis, could be revisited with unprecedented precision. The potential to unmask killers who believed they had evaded justice for decades suddenly became a tangible reality, offering a renewed sense of purpose to cold case units worldwide.
With these advancements, many police forces across the UK began systematically reviewing their cold cases. In the early 2010s, Mary McLaughlin's file was pulled from the archives. A new generation of detectives, equipped with modern investigative techniques and an unwavering commitment, began to re-examine every aspect of the original inquiry. This wasn't just a reread, it was a fresh perspective, applying contemporary understanding of crime scene analysis, victim profiling, and most significantly, the power of advanced forensics. The cold case review team approached the challenge with renewed vigor, hoping that a crucial piece of the puzzle might have been overlooked or simply undecipherable with the technology available nearly 30 years prior, offering a glimmer of hope.
During the cold case review, specific items of evidence from the original scene took on new importance. Forensic scientists meticulously re-examined samples that contained DNA, attempting to build a comprehensive profile of the assailant. Fibers, fingerprints, and even witness statements were cross-referenced with modern databases and profiling techniques. The goal was to find a match, or at least to narrow down the pool of potential suspects significantly. While certain leads proved to be dead ends, the re-evaluation process itself uncovered nuances and subtle details previously missed, reigniting hope that the breakthrough needed to identify Mary's killer was potentially within reach, buried deep within the existing but newly interpreted evidence.
The DNA profile developed from the re-examined evidence led investigators to focus on a particular individual, someone whose name had surfaced in various contexts throughout the decades, but never as a prime suspect. This person's history, movements, and potential connections to Mary McLaughlin were meticulously re-evaluated. The investigation shifted, becoming more targeted, as detectives worked to build a robust case based on the intersection of old evidence and new forensic science. This potential person of interest was subjected to intense scrutiny, their life examined for any inconsistencies or hidden truths that might finally connect them definitively to the brutal act committed against Mary McLaughlin, bringing the decades-long hunt closer to its elusive conclusion.
For Mary McLaughlin's family, the decades have been an enduring ordeal. The void left by her senseless murder has never truly healed, and the pain of not knowing who was responsible has been a constant burden. Her children and grandchildren have lived with the specter of an unpunished killer, an ever-present reminder of their loss.
Their unwavering dedication to keeping Mary's memory alive and their persistent pleas for justice have been a driving force behind the continued efforts to solve this cold case. They represent the human cost of unsolved crime, a profound testament to the lasting impact on those left behind, forever marked by the violence that stole their loved one and the silence that followed.
Despite significant advancements and renewed efforts, the hunt for Mary McLaughlin's killer continues to this day. While a potential DNA profile exists and persons of interest have been scrutinized, the conclusive evidence required for a prosecution has remained elusive. The case stands as a stark reminder of the challenges inherent in cold case investigations, where memories fade, witnesses pass away, and physical evidence can only tell part of the story. The core questions persist. Who exactly was the person responsible for such a brutal act? What was their motive? And why, after all these years, have they managed to evade justice? The answers remain hidden, but the pursuit of truth endures. The murder of Mary McLaughlin serves as a powerful testament to the enduring human need for justice and the relentless dedication of those who seek it. While the passage of time has made this case incredibly challenging, the hope for resolution, for Mary's family to finally find peace, persists. Cold cases are not forgotten files. They are active narratives, waiting for that one crucial